Hey friends, welcome back to Better Days Start Today. I'm Adrienne. I want to start this episode off by naming where I've been and what this year has asked of me right out of the gate. So, I had some health challenges towards the end of last year, and I began this year with a heart procedure. And when your body does not cooperate the way that you're used to, it changes how you move through everything. So, my energy, my expectations, my sense of who I am, especially when I'm unable to operate at full capacity, it just bleeds into everything. So, it's not just a physical thing. For me, it was or is, since it's still ongoing, it's identity level. I'm used to being able to move my body in a way that I want to, really intense physical levels. I mean, this for about a year, that's been challenging, but generally, right, up until this point, whether it's marathons, endurance events, all of these things. And I always have multiple projects going on. I'm super creative. I got my writing, I got my podcasting, got my coaching, got everything going on. But yeah, like this past year, 2025 especially, was super challenging with health. And then kicking off 2026 with a procedure, that made things interesting. So when my body couldn't do what it normally does, I have leaned more deeply into my writing practice. And if you've been following me for any amount of time or listening to my podcast or you know me in real life, you know that I have been writing since I was a kid. I started writing, daily in fourth grade, I believe it was. Actually, second grade. Second grade. I started writing daily. We went on a cross country trip, my family, and I bought my first journal as a souvenir at the Warner Brothers store in Phoenix, Arizona. And I've been writing just about every day ever since. So I have this writing practice. And when things are going really well or things are not going so great, tends to be where I really funnel my energy. And I've been doing that. I've been writing more than ever, though I haven't been sharing all of it. I wrote about that in my last Substack essay, how I'm trying to really put effort into sharing the words that I spill on the page versus it just being an outlet for me. But anyway, so through all of this, as the year 2025 wound down, 2026 kicks off, I got all this health stuff going on, but I'm writing a ton. And a big reason that I write is I write to listen to myself, to understand myself, to make sense of things, to get a different perspective. It's a place to slow down enough to quiet the outside noise so I can hear what's actually true for me inside without everybody's input, all of the shoulds that inevitably come up in our lives. And I write because though I find clarity in the process, I don't sit down with any one journaling session intention of I'm going to have this all figured out by the end. I do it truly just to kind of meet myself wherever I'm at, spill everything out, see what my intuition has to say, see how my body's feeling. And then from there, take some of what I've uncovered and integrate it into my life. But the thing that I wanted to bring to you today is the core insight of all of this. And that is that transformation, it doesn't start with answers. If we just knew the answers, things wouldn't be so difficult. We wouldn't be out of alignment. We wouldn't be feeling unfulfilled or exhausted with whatever we've got going on in our lives, right? Changing things around would be easier because we would know, oh, this is the next right thing. The idea that transformation, any change that we want, begins with the courage to ask better questions. So if everything around you is loud, everybody's got their input, like I said, and maybe if you're in a similar boat like me, right? Like your body is asking for something different right now. If your plans are falling apart, your energy is dropped. When those things are happening, our instinct is often to ask urgent, panicked questions. What's wrong with me? How do I get back to normal? How do I fix this? But those questions don't typically help. It makes sense that we ask them, of course, but they're not usually the thing that unlocks the answer for us to get out of that spiral. When we ask ourselves better questions, something different happens. We're able to sit with the question and live with it and quiet down. And, for me, I'll start writing one thing and my thoughts will meander and my body sensations will change. And that gives me information. And what started as me answering one question with this particular prompt, takes me on that zigzagging road where I end up somewhere totally different. And when that happens, we're creating space for our intuition to respond, to give us input. So as a life coach, I know that coaching works because of the questions that we ask our clients. We ask questions that interrupt automatic thinking. They make space for something new, something true to emerge, allow us to take a different perspective. And when you ask yourself these kinds of questions, you open the door to coaching yourself. So essentially, by awakening your intuition, by hearing what's true for you within, you're allowing your intuition to guide you. You're figuring out what is right for you in this moment. And when you allow that to happen, you're not chasing answers so much as you are listening to the answers that are already there within you, that are finally able to bubble up. And that changes a lot, changes our energy, changes how we show up. Questions shape our attention, and our attention shapes our experience. So if we ask fear-driven questions, we get very narrow, tense answers. But if we ask grounded, curious questions, we invite insight. We release the pressure and we get curious. The thing is, intuition does not respond to interrogation, to beating yourself down, to demanding answers, to putting the pressure on to figure it out right now. Intuition bubbles up and we can hear it when we're curious, when we're patient, when we get into our body and we're present. And that's why asking better questions, it's a powerful practice. It changes the entire tone of the question that you're having with yourself. So I've noticed over the past few months, especially this last couple weeks, as things have been kind of up and down, I noticed that different questions serve different purposes. May seem obvious, but you don't ask the same question in every season or with every type of problem. You ask the one that fits where you are or what you need right now, or at least we should be striving to do that, right? So I have kind of thought of this in terms of three different kinds of questions, and they're grounding questions, expansive questions, and integrative questions. So when I'm talking about grounded questions, I'm talking about questions that bring you back into the present moment and bring you into your body. And these are especially helpful when things feel overwhelming or uncertain. It helps you kind of get back into yourself and identify those sensations that you're experiencing. And these questions might include things like, what am I feeling right now? Where do I notice this in my body? What might this feeling be trying to tell me? And these questions aren't about finding an immediate solution. It's just about noticing what is happening in our body, in our physical container. And then from that noticing, we can start unraveling the threads to get some relief. I have noticed for myself that when I ask these kinds of questions, the noise inside of my mind quiets and I hear myself much better. It's when my intuition starts waking up, starts talking to me, starts giving me information. And once I'm in my body, I can start asking some of these other types of questions. So for expansive questions, they help us loosen the stories that we're telling ourselves. They open new perspectives. They invite curiosity to the table. And that's a lot easier to do when we're grounded in our body rather than stuck in the swirling thoughts. So, an expansive question might be, what if this challenge is actually an invitation? What might be opening because something else slowed down? What am I being asked to learn in this season? The main thing is expansive questions create possibility. They don't force you to make meaning, they don't expect you to be a certain way. It's more of this just open, expansive, right? Expansive, the word. Um, but this way of just free writing and exploring and, like I said, getting curious, seeing what comes up. And then our insight can emerge, our intuition can emerge. And the last type of question that I mentioned, integrative question. So this type of question helps you to connect the insight that you've made from those expansive questions with movement in your life. So it doesn't mean that you have to change everything overnight, right now. It's about figuring out that aligned next step. So, an integrative question might look like, how does this version of me want to move forward? What pace actually supports me right now? What feels doable from here? And these questions, they respect your current capacity. You don't have to become someone else to devise the plan. They help you move forward as you are. I find this way of writing or this way of working through types of questions as a deeply intuitive practice. When we start asking ourselves better questions, powerful questions, we stop overriding ourselves. We stop trying to think our way out of the discomfort. We get back into our body and see where it leads us. We create that space for our inner voice to speak, for our intuition to wake up. For us to hear our intuition, we have to be available to receiving those messages. By asking better questions, we're helping ourselves create conditions to be available for that feedback. So when I ask myself questions or when I journal, I create questions that interrupt familiar thinking. I want them to get me to think about something differently than I already am. They're simple, but destabilizing. And by that, I mean they're concise, direct questions, but they ask things in a way that kind of makes me take a double take, makes me look twice, makes me stop and pause. And the question leads me to be responsible for listening to what bubbles up rather than explaining or forcing an answer. So for me, writing is how I access all of this. I don't like to do this type of uh, thinking in my head, asking myself these questions. For me, that just causes rumination, causes frustration, does not help. But I take these types of questions to the page and I start with that. It takes me to the place that I need to go that I may not even know what that is yet. And that doesn't mean you're going to sit down, like I said, and all of a sudden have all of the answers. But when you sit down and you ask the questions and you allow yourself just to go wherever that takes you without judgment, just let the words spill out, you're going to hear the nudges, the intuition that guides you towards that next aligned step. For me, writing turns powerful questions, challenging questions into a conversation with myself. It gets me out of the mentality of this is a problem that needs to be solved and lets me live in the question, get curious, see where it takes me. There's no rushing to solve or fix anything. If you are listening and you are in a season where things feel off or slow, maybe unfamiliar, your body is not doing what you want it to do, I want to offer you an invitation. Just notice the kinds of questions that you've been asking yourself lately. Are you asking yourself grounded questions? Are you getting back into your body? Do you need an expansive question to help you get curious and explore possibilities? Or do you kind of have that insight, but you're just not sure where to go next, right? You need an integrative question, something that's going to help you make the leap from, I know this, but I'm not sure how to make it happen. You don't have to ask all these questions at once or in this linear process. You could be all over the map with them. But when you bring them in and you play with them, it's interesting where they might take you. I have a question that you may want to journal on, and it's a super helpful question for me. What am I being invited to notice, reconsider, and choose differently right now? What am I being invited to notice, reconsider, and choose differently right now? I encourage you to journal on that. Just see what comes up. You may surprise yourself with whatever bubbles up. Sometimes the most powerful thing that we can do for ourselves is ask better questions and then just give ourselves the space and the time to listen to what comes up. And the way that I do that is on the page. And I've noticed that's where the real change begins. If you are looking for a writing community and a place that you can go to get ideas for these types of questions, to do this writing with other women, I want to invite you to the Writing Wild Society. It is a creative sanctuary for women who write to awaken their intuition. Through prompts, circles, community connection, we use the page as a place to return to the truth within. There's never pressure to share unless you want to, of course, but it's about creating a practice to show up to the page honestly and then letting that ripple into your life. I believe when you can be yourself on the page, you can be yourself in life. So the Writing Wild Society is open. I've got a link in the show notes. I would love for you to join us. You can join at 2 different levels. There is a free community where you get access to prompts and writing invitations and a feed where we're all talking to each other, participating. And there's also an upgrade option where you will get to attend live writing circles, community connection hours, and there is so much more content available for you if you go with that option. So if this is something you're interested in, I would love for you to check it out. It's the Writing Wild Society. Again, the link will be in the show notes, just the show description. I hope to see you there. It is such a beautiful, special place, and we are having an amazing time getting to know each other and writing together. So thank you for taking the time to listen today. I hope this has been helpful for you. I will see you back here soon, and I hope you have an amazing week.